Good evening, everybody. The U.S. Supreme Court today issued arguably the most important order to ever come down from the court. The High Court ruling that President Trump is immune from prosecution for carrying out his official duties as president, and most importantly, from persecution by politicians. President Trump vindicated once again in that a normal occurrence for the man who has been politically persecuted and harassed for more than 9 years now, as I've reported, by all levels of government, local, state, and federal jurisdictions. President Trump will be joining us here this evening in just moments with reaction to today's ruling. It started with a Russia hoax, and once elected, President Trump was impeached over that perfect phone call with Ukraine President Zelensky. He was acquitted by the Senate. Then came a second impeachment for challenging what he knew was a rigged election, and acquitted once again. After leaving office came a slew of sham indictments from rogue and corrupt prosecutions, again from every level of government. First, the civil suit from Marxist New York State Attorney General Tish James, where a no jury trial, Trump was ordered to pay $355 million. Then followed two federal criminal cases, two state cases, the sham January 6 case in D.C. from Jack Smith, the sham Mar-a-Lago documents case, also from Jack Smith, the sham Fulton County case on behalf of Fannie Willis and her lover, Nathan Wade. And lastly, the Alvin Bragg DA hush money case, where a slew of Marxist New Yorkers found President Trump to be guilty on 34 felony counts. President Trump will be in court on July 11th for a sentencing hearing where it is possible that a corrupt and conflicted state judge, Juan Merchant, will sentence him to jail. We have a star-studded lineup on tonight's show, this special edition of Dobbs Tonight. Our guests include Missouri's Attorney General Andrew Bailey, former Assistant Attorney General Jeff Clark, Republican strategist Roger Stone, and attorney Kurt Olson. Joining us as well, I want to bring in our first guest tonight, who is the 45th President of the United States and looks to be very much on his way to becoming the 47th. Mr. President, first, congratulations on this critically important ruling. And I just want to say how terrific it is of you to take time in this busy evening for you and for the country to join us here. Well, Mr. President, congratulations on the Supreme Court ruling. The country is obviously reverberating with all sorts of emotions. Give us a sense of your emotions when you first heard the news.
Well, I was honored because there's pressure. You play the ref, these people on the left, they are just, you just don't know where they come from. It's hard to believe when you look at how bad they are for our country, but they're constantly playing the ref and criticizing people, hoping to get good decisions out of them. And you see it. It's like Bobby Knight, the great basketball coach. He'd throw chairs, he'd do everything. He said, no, I'm not going to get that call changed, but I'm going to get the next call changed. You know, that's what they do. They play the ref. But in this case, it didn't work. They are, I really think that the Supreme Court it's a very proud moment for the Supreme Court. They did the right thing. It was a strong ruling. Some people thought they may come in with a very weak ruling, and that would have been very bad for immunity for the president. You have to have immunity for a president. Otherwise, the president is going to be a figurehead. The president's not going to do the job that the president was supposed to be doing. And you understand that probably as well as anybody, Lou. You've long been talking about this subject. And this is a very monumental ruling, very powerful ruling. And I was very proud of the Supreme Court for having the courage to do what's right.
I certainly would join you in that without any surprise to anyone, I'm sure, watching this broadcast. But to think that the attempts at intimidation have been rampant for really 9 years as they politically persecuted you, your family, the Supreme Court justices themselves, and Republican leaders. It's just a moment in history that, as you say, uh, the courage of the court, the courage of so many in Washington, D.C., emanated from one man. And there seems to be fairly universal conviction on this part as well, that you were the one who introduced the idea of courage to the Republican Party, and that it is now truly your party to lead. And you are the perfect leader for the times, many comparing you to Churchill in 1939, and your leadership critical to the survival of the Republic itself. Your thoughts?
Well, it's an honor that you say that, especially that you say that, because I know where you come from. I know your knowledge, your level of knowledge is at the top. And for you to say that is very nice. And look, we need courage in this country. The country we're a failing nation. We are sadly and badly failing nation right now. We have a man that has no capability whatsoever to be president. And you saw that the other night at the debate. And, he's just not. We need greatness, and we're just going to be failing to a level that we're not going to have much of a country left anymore. We may not have another election again. There are those that say that if we keep going, this will be our last election. This is such an important election. This is the most important election in the history of our country. And I used to say at 16, we had problems with the border, but it was very bad, but it was nothing compared to what it is right now. Right now, they're allowing millions and millions of people to come in from other countries, and not just South America. And they're coming in, think of this, they're coming in from jails and prisons, from mental institutions, insane asylums, many terrorists, levels of terrorism that we've never seen, terrorists that we've never even imagined would be coming into this country, and they're just pouring in. Now, what's good about that? Politically, what's good about that? Some people say they do it for the vote. Some people say they do it because they hate the country. Some people say they do it because they're stupid. But regardless of why they're doing it, they're destroying our country, and we have to stop it. We have to stop it immediately, or we're really going to be we're already in big trouble, but we'll really be in big trouble.
To that point, Mr. President, everyone knows that this is going to be a difficult period, not only the remaining months of the campaign, but the first years, or at least, of your presidency will be very tough. The policy choices that you will have to make, that you will have to undertake, the missions to both secure the border, secure the nation's national security, as well as focus on what must be done to restore prosperity and peace to the nation, because we are not the farthest thing, but a far thing from a nation at peace. Your thoughts about priorities as you have been leading your campaign and taking the battles straight to the president, who has done such a woeful job of securing our national security and absolutely restoring prosperity.
So we have to immediately close the border, and we still want people to come in, but they have to come in through the legal process, and we can do that. We want people, I want people, but we have to secure the border immediately. And that has to do with not only people, it has to do with drugs, it has to do with human trafficking, which is at an all-time high. So we have to immediately secure the border. We have to immediately start, the term I use is drill, baby, drill. We have more liquid gold under our feet than any other nation, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia. We have to drill. Have to get our energy costs down. That's going to bring inflation down. But a lot of great things can happen. One of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go to the General Eisenhower. President Eisenhower was very big on deportation of people that came in illegally. Right. And we're going to have to go to that. We're going to have to deport tremendous numbers of people, and we're going to start with the criminals, and we're going to start with the people that come out of the mental institutions. We cannot have them in our country. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. Our whole quality of life. Look at what's happening. I mean, I had lunch yesterday with the mother of a young girl who was killed by horrendous people, 12-year-old girl, by the way. But you see that all the time now. You're seeing it all the time. We can't have it, and we're not going to have it. And we're going to bring peace and prosperity back to our country. But we're going to have to deport a lot of people. They have people coming in by numbers. Take a look at Venezuela. Their crime rate's down 70%, 72% over a relatively short period of time. And it's not because of any other reason other than they've taken their gang leaders and their drug lords and everybody, they've moved them into the United States. They've moved all their criminals, literally. By the time they're finished, it'll be all. In fact, I'm surprised it's taken them that long. And that's true with many other countries, too. You look at crime rates are down all over the world. You know why they're down? Because they're sending their criminals into the United States. And these criminals are tough, Lou. This isn't like, baby stuff. These are tough, hard, vicious people. And they're coming into our country and they're destroying our country because we have a president that has a low IQ. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And we have to change that. And that's always tough because as soon as you bring one person where you make a mistake and you bring a person who's a beautiful father with a beautiful wife and beautiful children, and they make a mistake and they end up on the front page of every newspaper, and they think that all the killers, all the people that have killed people are all wonderful. So, it's a very tricky problem, politically tricky, and a lot of traps all over the place. But we have to get the bad people. We got to get them out, and we got to get them out fast. They're killing people all over the place, and you see it every single day now. You're seeing it, people getting killed by the Biden migrants. I call them the Biden migrants, and that's exactly what they are. Nobody would have done what he's doing. Nobody. The radical left, I guess, liked it. I don't even think they knew about it. I don't even think they like it. But who, and when you think about it, who could like it? Who could like men playing in women's sports? Who could like open borders where people are pouring in? Who could like being mandated to buy an electric vehicle that you don't want because it doesn't go far and costs too much? I could go through 40 things. Who could like these things? They're not, it's just terrible what's happening. So we're going to change it all around. We're going to change it around very fast.
The breadth of the problem is tremendous. The intricacies of it, the depth of these issues are tremendous. And the nation understands, I believe, without question, what an important and difficult challenge awaits you in this nation. And I am encouraged by every poll that it's showing just how much the country is depending on you, supporting you, and in means for you to succeed. God bless you, and thanks so much for joining us here this evening. And we look forward to the next challenges that await all Americans. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, thank you. And you are such an important voice. I don't think you know how important a voice you are. You are an important voice, Lou, and keep it going. And we'll do it again soon, but I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. God bless. Joining us now is the outstanding Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, Andrew Bailey. He's suing the state of New York over their lawfare waged against President Trump. And it's great to have you with us. Thanks for taking the time, Mr. Attorney General. And I have to believe, with all of your advocacy and your support for President Trump, that you couldn't have been more elated at about, at midday today, Washington time.
Yeah, Lou, this is a huge win for the Constitution and freedom-loving Americans everywhere. It reinforces the concept of the separation of powers by identifying and properly placing the president's immunity in a place where I think the founders would have wanted it to be. Again, the founders envisioned that the president has to have broad latitude to meet crises that would be unimaginable in 1776. That spectrum of crises would have grown and broadened and become more deep as we move through the millennia. And I would also say that Congress created a method by which the president could be sanctioned. It's called impeachment. And twice Congress tried to impeach President Trump, and twice they acquitted him of those charges. So this is, again, a huge win for President Trump, but also for the structure of our government and for the Constitution.
As you say, the Constitution and the structure of the government, to think that we did not at any point here have a clear iteration of the offenses against the law, the Constitution, that would specifically bring about an impeachment. It shows you the difficulty of even summarizing or specifying those offenses that would be breaking the Constitution and the law. The law is one thing, but to have the law being enforced by local and state and federal jurisdictions, and at the same time be used as a political estoppel, if you will, against the powers of the executive branch, meant to be by the founders the most important job, the chief executive of the United States.
Yeah, and I think that, that really speaks to this idea that the court can only rule on cases that come before it. And so the facts have to marry up with the law to provide a decision from the court, which points to the kind of historical nature of where we find ourselves in these dark days of our republic, that never before has a political opponent prosecuted a former president. This represents the nadir of depravity, forcing the Supreme Court to weigh in and provide some contour and texture to the concept of presidential immunity. Glad they did it. Sad that it ever had to come before the court.
Without question. And to think that this court made this ruling with all of the evidence before it. It was as if the time and the moment were designed for this very ruling. Looking out at Fulton County, Georgia, with a prosecutor there who has lost all sense of proportion and responsibility, whether it be the Tisha James Attorney General's office, in which she has took upon herself extraordinary abuses of power, and did so with wanton disregard for both common sense, the law, the Constitution, and the traditions of our nation. You're thinking.
Yeah, and Alvin Bragg as well. I mean, all of these three individuals at the state level are clearly politically motivated and should have been disqualified from these cases before they ever commence. And there's still time to disqualify Fani Willis from her case down in Georgia. And hopefully the court will do the right thing. It's a system failure when you have a rogue prosecutor and a collusive judiciary that allows that kind of political prosecution to move forward here at the federal level. At least the United States Supreme Court stepping in and putting a stop to at least some of it. The downside is Jack Smith will still pursue charges against President Trump, will argue that the things he did were not in his official capacity as president, and will find things that he did that clearly were outside the scope of his presidential duties for which to prosecute him. Because again, the goal is never to obtain a legally valid conviction. The goal is always an illicit witch hunt that ties down the president and his resources and silences him during the heat of a presidential election on the campaign trail in the most consequential presidential election in this nation's history. But there's a footnote here that's going under reported and undiscussed, and it's really Clarence Thomas's concurring opinion where he questions the authority of Jack Smith to ever bring the charges in the first place. You cannot just, a private citizen cannot charge an individual with a criminal offense, certainly not a president. And Congress has to create laws to empower any prosecutorial authority at the federal level. No such law has been created or position created for Jack Smith. So I think Clarence Thomas identified as a threshold issue here, which is calling into question the very legitimacy of Jack Smith's appointment as a private citizen to prosecute a former president. And again, it underlines the specious nature of the case.
The specious nature of the case, the perversion of the case, in my opinion, because as we look at all that has happened, the use of government powers to stop, as you pointed out, political opponents is unheard of, and to do it in such a bald-faced manner, raw and a brutal abuse of power, is unheard of, unthinkable in previous times, at least previous ages in constitutional law and in the political history of the United States, isn't it?
Yeah, the left and President Biden and his ilk hate President Trump more than they love the United States of America. And why I say that is that the Constitution is our national identity. It's who we are as a people. We're one of the only nations on earth that recognizes that our rights as human beings come from God, not man. Our founding document protects us, protects those rights from the government. And the purpose of the government is to protect our rights. And yet under President Biden, repeatedly, the government has been weaponized to attack an individual's constitutional rights. And the residual effect is our constitutional rights are also violated. Look at the gag order against President Trump. When he's silenced, it's not only his right to free speech that is harmed, but our right to hear from him. And Missouri's right to participate on equal footing in a national election is violated when the state of New York, through the apparatus of a rogue prosecutor and collusive judiciary, can take a presidential candidate off the campaign trail and deny Missourians access to him. This violates Missourians' sovereign right to participate on equal footing in a national presidential election. So this has done damage to the entire structure of our country and who we are as an American people. And I think that's why there's such backlash against it, because everyone knows it's fundamentally unfair.
You know, as you summarize, the reality for Americans today is that there is right now no path forward that is clear and freshly cut though it may be. It's not clear, and we have to find a way forward. And to do that is going to be an immense political task. It's a task I think probably it's safe to say will be happily borne by our next guest, who is the President of the United States, former President Donald Trump. And it certainly appears that he will become the 47th. I want to just say, Andrew, thanks so much for being with us. Andrew Bailey, the Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, we thank you so much and throughout for your support of this incoming president, whoever he may be. Thanks so much, Andrew Bailey.
We'll keep fighting the good fight. Thanks, Lou.
Now let's bring in Jeff Clark, former Assistant Attorney General under President Trump, Senior Fellow and Director of Litigation at the Center for Renewing America. And Jeff, great to have you with us. Thanks for all that you have done in your service to the country. And we appreciate you greatly being with us this evening. Let's turn to just how important this decision is. Legal analyst after legal analyst today saying point blank that your contributions to preserving the Constitution and the Republic have been critically important. And Jeff, you had to feel pretty good when you started reading all of the legal analysts saying that all of this issue of immunity from persecution of your carrying out your official duties means that you're looking very good in your case. Your reaction at that point?
Well, thanks for having me on, Lou. Absolutely. Look, there were signs of this from the oral argument where there were hypotheticals about what about the interactions between the president and officials at the Justice Department and in the Oval Office, et cetera, right? So obviously, when I was listening to the oral argument back in April, my ears perked up at that. But to actually see it in print as the majority opinion of the U.S. Supreme Court and an opinion written by the chief, which is really one for the ages, is quite another matter. So yes, I was very pleased, Lou. This is a tremendous decision, a tremendous validation of the Constitution and vindication of President Trump and the positions that I've been taking. I mean, I could take you back to very early days where I was advancing an immunity defense, both to the DC bar and from August of last year when we had to defend against Fani Willis's silly indictment as if we're all organized crime criminals, RICO criminals down in Georgia.
It is amazing as we look back over these past 9 years of political persecution of this president. And as you say, the past 4 years, not quite, of persecution by the Biden Attorney General's office, Justice Office. We have fallen a long ways in this country, haven't we? But on the other hand, all of this is evidence of the corruption of the Marxist Dem Party that is being led in a direction that no one could have imagined even 5 years ago. It's truly remarkable. The abuse of power rampant, the corruption, as I say, wanton and unimaginable just 5 years ago. You're thinking?
Yes, I agree with that, Lou. And I don't know what they really thought they were doing. As I tweeted today about Jack Smith, right? I mean, he's looking like a real dud at this point. And you had indicated that you think there's collusion going and coordination going on between the Biden Justice Department and these other prosecutions like Fani Willis's or like Alvin Bragg's. I completely agree with that. And look, I can't get access in the Fani Willis case to the documents that would prove that. There are letter exchanges, which Fani Willis's lawyers, her co-prosecutors, have admitted exists in open court between the White House counsel's office and the Justice Department and Fani Willis and her people, and yet they're under seal and I can't get access to them, right? So these dams are going to break. I think that case is going to fall. I think the Jack Smith case is going to fall in DC. And I think that, especially after Justice Thomas's concurrence, taking aim at the Office of Special Counsel, that the documents case is going to fall as well, because that case is premised at this point, as Judge Cannon has been exploring, on the idea that Jack Smith is a validly appointed official who can wield, the superpowers of all U.S. attorneys fused into one, even without actually being a Senate confirmed and presidentially appointed U.S. attorney. It's remarkable. And then, last quick observation, just to show how much this is really one for the ages. One of the points that the liberal media was constantly stressing during this fight about immunity was, of course, President Trump can't have immunity because President Nixon had functionally admitted that he didn't have immunity by going to get a pardon from Gerald Ford back in Watergate days, right? Well, first of all, obviously, Donald Trump is made of a lot sterner stuff than Nixon. And that even, let's just put criticisms of Nixon, on assume they're correct grounds. I don't really assume they're correct, but I'm willing to do that for this comparison. But what's changed between now and then is that the lawyers have made conservative lawyers have made a major return to the original Constitution, Lou. And in doing those studies, they have now really resurrected the muscular separation of powers that are needed to make the presidency actually operate properly, that the framers envisioned. And we saw sort of the massive reinvigoration of those separation of powers principles in the masterful hands of John Roberts in the opinion that was issued today, Lou.
And Jeff, it's interesting that there is such a, if you will, a misconstruction of the separation of powers, the equal powers of government, and the necessity of having a very strong executive president, but one that is not politically corrupt, whose oath is to the Constitution of the United States, and means what he says and says what he believes when he supports that Constitution. We have gone through a period of time here that it's truly sickening to all in this country who believe in America, the American dream, our heritage, and all that this country has been and will be for future generations. I believe largely directly responsible for that possibility now, that likelihood now, is this decision by the Supreme Court today.
Yes, I think that it's not designed to be striking a blow on President Trump's behalf politically, but I do think, if you take a step back from it, obviously it vindicates President Trump's positions. And, look, President Trump did not engage in any wrongdoing in connection with January 6th, or the lead up to January 6th, or in questioning the election, as I know we both believe, Lou. That election, it was dirty and smelled to the high heavens in multiple dimensions. But, the media got to run this sort of almost uncontested playbook of a narrative of January 6th, the insurrection, the insurrection, the insurrection. They've drummed it into the heads of many people. And it's really gratifying to see that the genius of the framers in giving us justices with lifetime tenure who, they're not beholden to that kind of political narrative, however strong it becomes based on repetition, that they've just repaired to the constitutional provisions and the constitutional structure of separation of powers. And they realize that you cannot have a president who is intended to be an energetic executive. He has to be fearless and faithful if that president is under threat of criminal prosecution, because the Supreme Court had already declared that there was civil immunity for presidents, right? And of course, the left argued, well, criminal is different and there has to remain that threat. But as the opinion explains today, you actually need to have more protection from criminal prosecution than for civil liability, because the criminal prosecution will chill the president's energetic powers even more. So the logic of the opinion is so strong, Lou. I'm over the moon about it, and I think President Trump should be as well.
Well, I hope that the American people are, even those who doubted that there was much at risk, because what we are witnessing today is, in my opinion, the salvation of the republic and the firm support by the court of everything our founders intended. And if we just look at this canvas that is American society in 2024, it's a firm, full statement that it was absolutely critical to preserve this great republic, great constitutional republic of ours. Jeff Clark, we thank you for being with us this evening. Thank you so much, and thank you for being such an important part of preserving this constitutional republic throughout your service. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lou. That means a lot, and it's a great day for America.
Turning now to a deal you certainly don't want to miss. It's not as big as some, but bigger than others. All of you out there know that Mike Lindell and MyPillow no longer have the support of their box stores and the big shopping channels the way they once did. They've been part of the cancel culture, so they want to pass those savings directly on to you. They're continuing the $25 extravaganza, and when Mike Lindell started MyPillow, it was just a one-problem solution and a one-product company. Well, since then, with the help of his dedicated employees, they have continually built hundreds of products, some that you may not even know about. To get the word out, they're having that $25 extravaganza. Beach towels are now $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. $25. Their 6-pack towel sets, it's $25, and 4-pack dish towels, that's right, $25. Now, for just a limited time, you'll receive Mike's Movies free with every purchase. You will see these amazing offers at mypillow.com/Dobbs or call 800-977-9152 and use promo code Dobbs. That's DOBBS. And join us for my podcast, The Great America Show, each day. We appreciate it. And I'm pleased to say that joining me now is longtime Republican strategist, best-selling author, advisor to President Trump, and the host of the Stone Zone. That's Roger Stone, if you didn't guess. And great to have you with us, Roger. And Roger, what a great day to talk with you, a man who has been associated with, worked with, and supported Donald Trump for decades. To see him absolutely exonerated, validated by the Supreme Court, what a moment in history. And many are saying right now that this is the most important ruling to be handed down by the court in its history. You're thinking.
Well, what's happened here is Donald Trump has won his due process rights. You see, the cabal of corrupted prosecutors trying to expedite these federal charges against him in a witch hunt, rushing to try to do it before the election to impact and therefore interfere with the election, are furious that Trump fought for and got his due process rights. And therefore, they're not going to be able to try to railroad him or lynch him before many legal questions are solved and settled in the courts, their future hearings, but it's all next year. So this is a great victory for letting the people decide. Let the people decide, not the courts, who should be the next president. That New York frame job didn't sit well with the American people because it stinks of what it is. Manipulation of the law. Even Andrew Cuomo said, if his last name wasn't Trump, I was the former Attorney General of New York, and I can tell you that case would never have been brought. So it is, and then Trump's stellar performance in the debate where he's focused, he's funny, he's strong, he doesn't take the bait, he remains totally focused on pounding Biden on the economy and the border. And then we see the physical deterioration, the public meltdown of Joe Biden on national television. It was painful. It's what we've been saying for some time, which the Democrats have vehemently denied, but the man is not up to the job, causing the greatest split in the Democratic Party since the Vietnam War in 1968, Lou.
Yeah, it's absolutely incomprehensible why the corporate nationalist media, I'm not sure they're nationalists, they're national, would take that bait and throw away a franchise worth billions and billions of dollars, whether it's in advertising, whether it's in data, you name it. To imagine that they actually decided that they would give up the idea of purity, of objectivity, of thought, and reasoned facts. It's absolutely unbelievable that they basically told the American people, go straight to hell. We don't really think you're an important franchise anymore, and they lined up with aligned themselves with the Marxist Democratic Party now, and decided to destroy their franchise. I don't know if it's recoverable. Do you?
I don't think so. Look, I think this was a gambit going wrong. I think Biden intended to challenge Trump to the CNN debate, certain that Trump would decline because of an entirely rigged situation. To their shock and surprise, Donald Trump, who had already said anytime, anywhere, Joe, said, okay, I'm in. Brushed aside the disadvantageous rules, went in under the rules, performed, I think, incredibly, and Biden literally made a fool of himself. We read today the Biden advisors were upset about the lack of fact checking on Donald Trump. Really? With the president, Joe Biden, who said not a single member of the service, military service, died under his watch? Has he forgotten Afghanistan entirely? I mean, the guy was out to lunch. He recycled every debunked, disproved, completely discredited attacks on Trump, including the phony calling veterans suckers and losers, and that fraudulent. He said Nazis were very fine people, not even remotely what he said. He recycles all those lies. Then he says he inherited a 16% inflation rate when it was 6.3. I mean, it was incredible. And now the big guns on the left, the New York Times, Politico, the Philadelphia Inquirer, all the big boys begin immediately, like on cue from who knows, maybe Barack Obama, to say, Joe, this was a disaster. This is a meltdown. Joe must go. There's now a deep cleavage in their party as the Bidens dig in their heels, egged on by Kamala Harris. This is a drama. You can't even make this stuff up. How quickly it is clear the emperor had no clothes.
Now, it's amazing that as we look at what happened in D.C. in the course of a short week, to see this result the following week in the debunking of an entire administration, an entire presidential campaign, and a figurehead no better than that in Joe Biden, who couldn't possibly be in any way preserved. There is just in my view, no way back for Joe Biden in the American political scene. He's done.
But Joe, this is what you have, Lou. This is akin to the situation with Woodrow Wilson. Elected in 1913, in 1919, Wilson had an incapacitating stroke. He was physically and mentally incapacitated. His wife, Edith Galt Wilson, with the acquiescence of Colonel House, the White House Chief of Staff, Edward House, essentially never allowed Wilson to appear in public, and his wife was a de facto president. She made all major decisions, and when it came time for him to sign documents, she would put a pen in his hand and move his hand. That's exactly what you have today. Jill Biden is running the country. The babysitter who Joe started an affair with when he was married to his first wife before she was tragically killed in a car accident, who is now the de facto president of the United States. And he says Donald Trump has the morals of an alley cat. What about that?
Yeah, it's incredible. We're talking with the great, inimitable Roger Stone. Well, now let's bring in someone who's been in President Trump's corner since day one. My Pillow founder, CEO Mike Lindell. Mike, I have to imagine, I think I can imagine the level of excitement and thrill that you got today when it was clear that the Supreme Court had decided to do the right thing by a 6-3 decision to absolutely vindicate you. And by the way, President Trump himself. It's just a marvelous day for America. And I know not every American feels that way, but I think in the fullness of time, they will, because they really, this court has stood up in the midst of terrible times and just wanton abuse of power like America has never seen before, and supported the man who will save this republic, in my opinion. Your thoughts?
That's right. And in my mind, I just knew eventually you would see some common sense in our courts all the way up to the Supreme Court. I mean, Lou, as you know, I have many cases that have went there. They wouldn't even look at. And you got to go. But then we had the great Colorado one that came down 9-0. Remember that? When they tried to take him off the ballot. So, this is a great day for our country, and we're going to have many more great days. And I just got off a very bad show. I won't even say the person's name, but he's on YouTube and he attacks me every day. And I just wanted to get the word. I wanted to get the word out there. And we were arguing over our election platforms. And I'm going, you know what? Everybody should want secure elections, which happens to be paper ballots, hand counted, and get rid of these electronic voting machines. And so when you've got this ruling and, that everybody knows they just wanted to, they figure, Lou, they're running scared because they figure when you say that it's too big to even overrun the algorithms and computers. And here's what I say to that. That is the true fact. When you've got a candidate like Donald Trump that is going to get, in a fair vote, over 60% of this country. And if you, in the last election in 2020, now this is my belief, I had to say it on the other show, there were 15 million votes stolen. In my mind, the real count, Donald Trump about 82 million, Biden was in the high 60s. Now, in order to do the same thing this time with computers, you would have to, because of the polling, you'd have to take another 10 million votes. Do you think, I've said it before, do you think the public, if I was going to hand you another China virus in August and say, here you go, you think we would all do the same things we did before, sit inside, hide inside, and do all these things, eat out in snowbanks in Minnesota, eat outside the restaurant? No, we would not stand for it, because we learned by the first anomaly. And same way with these elections. This election in the 2024, they're not going to tolerate, if they would do these algorithms and steal it with what's left of these computers, people are going to say, what are they going to say? Open them up. We want them opened up. We demand you open them up. We want to see for ourselves. Explain this. Explain how 2 + 2 is 8. And so I'm very excited. And you were the first one to text me when this news came out, so I was pretty excited.
Well, thank you for that. And that's a heck of a deal when the country is sitting here waiting for it. And I know everybody has to get clicks and everything else, but some of these news organizations were saying Supreme Court rules on immunity, and then nothing. Oh, updates ahead. Be sure to stay with us. I'm sitting here, and I'm sitting there. I'm just wanted to crush my computer and my phone, but we finally got the news, and what news it is, and it will reverberate throughout our history, I'm sure. I want to say that the Justice Thomas said it really, I thought, very well when he said that. That no one person and no one individual in this country can prosecute a president. It just doesn't happen. But that is exactly what happened with Jack Smith, the special counsel, who was, he determined that he was going to be special counsel. And Merrick Garland, really, they don't need the appointment of a president suddenly. It's a
Right.
law, by the way, folks. It's a law. But like most
Right.
of the laws in this country, the Marxist Dem Party has put its very existence at risk by simply ignoring the law, breaking the law, and refusing to support the Constitution. Will they survive this, in your opinion?
Well, and it's true. And this is, it would have ruined if this one ruling, when it came down, it's over. Our country's gone. They've been breaking these. They've been doing this at all levels. I mean, look what just happened this last week when people worked hard to get 6,000, I think 800 and some signatures to recall the Speaker of the House of Wisconsin, Robin Voss. And then the WEC, when their own lawyers said, yep, they did it. And the WEC goes against the Constitution of Wisconsin, just breaks the law and says, I'm sorry, we're not going to do a recall. I mean, what's it, it's like, it's almost in disbelief. But Lou, as these things keep happening, it's really opening more and more people's eyes to the nonsensical thing, the place we were headed. And like I said, we're in the best time in the world to be alive, the best time in history, because as we get through all these things, and and we finally get as these rulings start coming in, you're going to see things just fall like dominoes, and we're going to get back to a place that's better than ever. In other words, to get to this great place, we wouldn't have got there. I've said it before, the 2020 election, most important election in history, because everyone says the one coming up. I'm saying 2020, because that's the one that is finally opening people's eyes over the last 3.5 years. Yeah. And that you can't go against our Constitution. That's why their founding fathers had made all these things and made all these rules and made all these our Constitution, and it's just getting destroyed. And what a great thing today to have confidence in our system that they set up way back when.
Yeah, I think you're right, and to even question right now whether that decision by the Supreme Court was right, partisans will disagree about that. But the truth is, I think every American in the next few years certainly will understand how important, how critical, how profound this historical decision by the Supreme Court is, because we were about to lose the brightest shining beacon of freedom in this world's history, and that is the U.S. Constitution. It means everything to us, and it means everything, in point of fact, I believe, to the world. As we wrap up here, your thoughts on the importance of Donald Trump as the figure historically to lead this nation and the free world toward our destiny as a nation.
I actually said this to him about a month ago as we were sitting together, and I remember him saying something to the effect that I go, you know what, all these bad things happening, they're destroying our country. I said, it's all, God uses all things for good. And I said, it's opening more and more people's eyes. And he said, but Mike, it's just getting destroyed so bad. It's so bad. And to get everything fixed, it just, he's basically saying, boy, they might go past the point of no return or something. And I said, sir, with God, all things are possible, and him working through you, it'll be fixed faster and better than ever. And he agreed. And you gotta have him. It's just a businessman with the proof of concept. We got him, he's proven it. So we couldn't have anybody better at the helm that God chose for such a time as this than Donald Trump.
I couldn't agree more. And I appreciate you being with us, Mike. I want to explain something to everybody. Mike Lindell is always on the go. I think you probably heard no one has more energy, with the possible exception of President Donald J. Trump.
That's right. That's right.
It's just amazing to me. You're in an airport. You're going, I don't know how many different directions. You're running, I don't know how many businesses. It's an extraordinary and wonderful thing to watch as you drive the company and you work every day. And I mean literally, folks, every day in some way to save this nation. And Mike, we're all deeply appreciative. Thanks for being with us here.
Well,
thanks.
Well, thank you, Lou. God bless you. Thank you.
Well, before we go, all of you out there know that Mike Lindell and MyPillow no longer have the support of those box stores and shopping channels where they once did. They've been part of the canceled culture. So they want to pass on savings directly to you, the consumer. they're continuing their $25 extravaganza. When Mike started My Pillow, it was just My Pillow, a one problem, one solution product company. And well, since then, with the help of their dedicated employees, Mike Lindell and My Pillow now have hundreds of products. Some of you may not even know about them. To get the word out, they're having this $25 extravaganza. Beach towels, $25. My Pillow sandals, $25. Their 6-pack towels, $25. A 4-pack dish towel set, you guessed it, $25. Now, for a limited time, you'll receive Mike's movies free with any purchase. You will see these amazing offers on mypillow.com/Dobbs or call 800-977-9152 and use promo code Dobbs. That's promo code Dobbs. And please join us for my podcast, The Great America Show. Thanks for being with us. Good night and God bless you.